I'm standing in the rain, my $12,000 suit completely ruined, watching a 5-year-old black child with bare feet guide my driver under our broken-down Rolls-Royce with a flashlight made from a plastic bottle and a candle. My chest is tight, my hands are shaking, and I'm thinking about something my father told me 20 years ago that I built my entire life around, something that, in this moment, I realize destroyed me from the inside out. But let me go back. Let me tell you how a man worth $8.7 billion ended up here, on a muddy road in the middle of nowhere, about to have everything he believed torn apart by a child who couldn't even read yet. My name is Richard Thornhill III, and 6 months ago, I was untouchable. I'd inherited Thornhill Industries from my father when I was 32, a commercial real estate empire spanning 14 countries, 47,000 employees, properties worth more than most nations' GDP. My penthouse in Manhattan took up the entire 89th floor. I had homes in Geneva, Monaco, the Hamptons. My watch cost more than most people earn in 5 years. But the real inheritance, the one that shaped everything, wasn't money. It was my father's philosophy, delivered to me in his study 3 weeks before he died. Richard, there's a natural order to the world. Some people build, some people serve. Never confuse the two. The moment you do, the moment you start believing in equality nonsense, you become weak, and weak men lose everything. I built my empire on that principle, ruthlessly. I didn't just run a company. I ran it like a machine where every part knew its place. I had rules, strict rules. The executive floor was 92% white, carefully selected from the right schools, the right families, the right country clubs. When my head of HR suggested diversity initiatives, I fired her the same day. This is about excellence, I told my board, pure, undiluted excellence. I don't care about optics, I care about results. The board nodded. They always did. My dating life reflected the same philosophy. I only dated women from my social circle, daughters of senators, heiresses, women who understood the world was divided into those who owned things and those who cleaned them. When my sister brought her boyfriend to Christmas, a public school teacher, Mexican-American, brilliant but not our kind, I had security escort him out. "You're embarrassing the family," I told her. She didn't speak to me for 2 years. I didn't care. I had principles. My social circle reinforced everything. At the Metropolitan Club, over $400 cigars and 40-year-old scotch, we'd discuss the problem with this country, code for people who didn't look like us gaining power, influence, visibility. We donated millions to politicians who protected our interests. We built walls, literal and figurative, to keep our world separate, pure, controlled. I genuinely believed I was preserving something important, maintaining standards, protecting excellence. Then came October 17th. I had a site inspection scheduled in rural Georgia, a massive mixed-use development we were building, 200 acres, projected value $340 million. Normally, I'd send subordinates, but there were cost overruns, whispers of contractor fraud, and I needed to remind everyone who was in charge. My driver, James, white, former military, with me 12 years, picked me up at 6 a.m. in the Rolls-Royce Phantom. The plan was simple. Helicopter to Atlanta, inspect the site, dinner with the governor, helicopter back. I'd be home by 9 p.m. Weather changed everything. The storm rolled in around 4 p.m. Savage, biblical, the kind of rain that turns roads into rivers. The helicopter couldn't fly. The interstate was closed. James suggested we wait it out, but I had the governor waiting, investors getting nervous, and my temper getting worse. "Find another route," I snapped. "I don't care if it takes twice as long. We're not spending the night in this God-forsaken place." James pulled up GPS, found back roads cutting through rural farmland. It would add 90 minutes, but it was possible. We should have waited. The road was barely paved, more like a suggestion of asphalt with potholes big enough to swallow a motorcycle. No streetlights, no other cars, just darkness, rain hammering the windshield, and my growing rage at the incompetence of everyone who'd put me in this situation. We were 40 minutes in when I heard it, a sound like a gunshot. The car lurched violently. James fought the wheel, managed to keep us from flipping, but we slid sideways into a ditch, back wheels buried in mud. "Sir, I think we blew the rear axle," James said, his voice tight. I felt my blood pressure spike. "How is that possible? This car costs $485,000. "The roads, sir. We hit something." I grabbed my phone. No signal. Of course, no signal. James tried his. Same. I looked out the window. Nothing but darkness and rain. No houses visible. No lights. Nothing. "We need to walk back to the last town," James said. "Maybe 3 miles. I looked at my $2,000 Italian leather shoes, at my suit, at the rain that hadn't let up for a second. "Absolutely not. Someone will come." "Sir, we haven't seen another car in 20 minutes. "Then call corporate. Have them send—" "Sir, there's no signal." I wanted to hit something. Instead, I sat there stewing, my anger at the world crystallizing into rage at this specific, intolerable situation. 15 minutes passed. Then 30. The rain got worse. That's when James said, "Sir, there's a light." I looked up. Through the downpour, maybe 50 yards ahead, there was a faint glow. Orange, flickering, like a campfire or lantern. "Could be a house," James said. I didn't want to get out. Didn't want to walk through mud and rain toward some backwards rural dwelling probably filled with people who'd resent everything I represented. But sitting in the car was intolerable, and my pride wouldn't let me admit I was scared. "Fine. Let's go." We stepped out into the rain. It was worse than I'd imagined. Cold, violent, soaking through my suit in seconds. My shoes sank into mud with each step. I could feel water filling them, ruining the leather. My anger was a living thing, eating me from the inside. As we got closer, I could make out a structure. Not a house, more like a large shed or barn with walls made of corrugated metal and wood pallets. The light came from inside, visible through gaps in the walls. "This is a mistake," I muttered. James knocked on the door, a piece of plywood on hinges. A voice from inside, male, cautious. "Who's there?" "Our car broke down," James called. "We need to use a phone." Silence. Then, "Ain't got no phone, but you can come in from the rain." The door opened. The man standing there was in his 30s, black, wearing work clothes covered in paint stains and dirt. His hands were calloused, his face weathered. Behind him, I could see the interior. Dirt floor, a small wood stove providing heat and light, a mattress in the corner, a few plastic crates for furniture. And next to the mattress, a small boy, maybe 5 years old, watching us with huge eyes. The man saw my expression. I know he did, because I couldn't hide it. The instinctive recoil. The judgment. The disgust not just at the poverty but at having to be in it, near it, contaminated by it. "Come in," the man said quietly. "I'm Marcus. This is my son, Isaiah." James stepped inside. I hesitated. Marcus noticed. "You don't have to," he said, his voice flat. "But there's no other houses for 5 miles and the rain's getting worse." I stepped inside because I had no choice. The space smelled like wood smoke and damp earth. There was a pot on the stove, some kind of soup or stew, and a single bowl on a crate that served as a table. The boy, Isaiah, was wearing clothes that were too small, his feet bare despite the cold. Marcus gestured to the crates. "You can sit. I'll get you some towels." He pulled out 2 thin, frayed towels from a plastic bag and handed them to us. I took mine without a word, beginning to dry my face, my anger now mixed with humiliation. This was intolerable. I was Richard Thornhill III, standing in a shed with a dirt floor, taking charity from people who probably didn't earn in a year what I spent on wine in a month. "Thank you," James said. He always had better manners than me. Marcus stirred the pot on the stove. "You gentlemen need anything? I got some soup. Not much, but it's hot." "We're fine," I said quickly. Too quickly. Isaiah, the little boy, stood up and walked over to us. He stared at me with unnerving directness. "You're wet," he said. "Yes," I replied, my voice cold. "Papa can fix things. Maybe he can fix your car." I almost laughed, bitter, sharp. "I doubt that." Marcus looked at me. There was something in his eyes. Not anger, but something worse. Disappointment. Like he'd seen exactly who I was and found me wanting. "I'm a mechanic," Marcus said. "Lost my job 6 months ago when the plant closed. Been doing odd jobs, but work's scarce. This," he gestured around the shed, "this is temporary. Till I get back on my feet." "I'm sure," I said, not bothering to hide my skepticism. James shot me a look. "Sir." "What kind of car?" Marcus asked. "Rolls-Royce Phantom," I said. "I don't think—" "I worked on luxury vehicles for 8 years," Marcus interrupted. "German, British, Italian. If you want, I can take a look. No charge. Just trying to help." I stared at him. The audacity. The presumption that he, living in a shed with his barefoot son, could possibly understand the engineering of a $485,000 vehicle. "That won't be necessary," I said. Isaiah tugged on his father's pants. "Papa, the light thing." Marcus smiled, small, tired. "Right." He looked at me. "At least let me come see what's wrong. Isaiah likes to help. He's got good hands." I wanted to refuse. Wanted to sit in that miserable shed until dawn if necessary, rather than accept help from these people. But James was giving me that look, the one that said I was being unreasonable, and the alternative was sitting here making small talk with people I had nothing in common with. "Fine," I said. Marcus grabbed a tarp, then looked at Isaiah. "You stay here, buddy. Keep warm." "I want to help," Isaiah said. "It's raining, son." "I don't mind. Please, Papa." Marcus hesitated, then sighed. "All right. But you listen to everything I say." He wrapped the boy in an oversized jacket, adult-sized, drowning him, and grabbed a plastic bottle that had been cut open and had a candle stuck inside with wax. A homemade flashlight. We walked back to the car through the rain. I stood under my umbrella, the only one with an umbrella, watching as Marcus crawled under the Rolls-Royce in the mud, his son holding the makeshift light, both of them getting soaked and filthy. "See, Isaiah," Marcus said from under the car, "the axle connects to the wheel assembly right here. When it breaks, the wheel can't turn. Pass me that rock." The boy handed him a rock. Marcus used it as a hammer to tap something. I felt something twist in my chest. A 5-year-old child, barefoot, in the rain, helping his father who was helping me, a man who'd looked at them with barely concealed contempt. "Axle's cracked," Marcus called out. "But the real problem is the suspension's completely shot. You hit something hard, probably bent the whole assembly. This isn't something I can fix here, even if I had tools." "So we're stranded," I said flatly. Marcus slid out from under the car, covered in mud. "Pretty much. You'll need a tow truck, probably a flatbed, and a full shop to fix it." James asked, "Is there a tow service nearby?" "Not that I know of. Nearest town with services is probably Hartsville, maybe 25 miles. I felt my temper rising again. This is unacceptable. Isaiah was still holding the light, his small body shivering. Rain was streaming down his face, but he didn't complain. He just stood there, doing what his father asked. Marcus noticed me watching his son. "Isaiah, you're cold. Go back inside." "But Papa—" "Now, son." The boy started walking back toward the shed, his feet sinking into mud with each step. And that's when everything shifted. I don't know what it was. Maybe the sight of a child suffering because of me, because I'd been too proud and stubborn to wait out the storm, too important to accept that sometimes you can't force your way through everything. Maybe it was the contrast between this man, who had nothing, helping me, while I had everything and couldn't even muster basic gratitude. Or maybe it was simpler. I saw my father in Isaiah's eyes. No, I saw what my father had poisoned me to never see. Humanity. Worth that had nothing to do with bank accounts or skin color or social position. "Wait," I heard myself say. Isaiah stopped. I walked over, took off my suit jacket, the one I'd paid $4,000 for, and draped it over his small shoulders. It was completely oversized, dragging in the mud, but it was warm and mostly dry on the inside. "Here," I said quietly. "You shouldn't be cold." Isaiah looked up at me with those huge eyes. "Thank you, mister." Something broke inside me. Marcus was staring at me, his expression unreadable. I started, then stopped. What could I say? I'm sorry I've been a monster my entire life? I'm sorry I looked at you and your son like you were less than human? "Thank you for helping," I finally said. "I know I don't deserve it." Marcus studied me for a long moment. Then he nodded. "We all need help sometimes." We walked back to the shed. Marcus insisted we eat. 2 bowls of soup that he and Isaiah split between us, leaving them with barely anything. I tried to refuse, but James accepted, and I realized refusing would be another insult. The soup was thin, mostly broth with some vegetables and beans, but it was hot and I was cold, and it was the best thing I'd tasted in months. Isaiah sat next to me, still wearing my jacket, now holding a small toy car made from a crushed soda can and bottle caps for wheels. He rolled it along the ground, making engine noises. "I'm going to have a real car someday," he said to me. "A big one, and I'm going to drive Papa everywhere." "That's a good dream," I said. "What kind of car do you have?" he asked. "An expensive one, but it doesn't work right now." "Papa can fix anything," Isaiah said with absolute certainty. "He's the best." I looked at Marcus. He was watching his son with such fierce love it hurt to see. "Isaiah's right," I said. "Your father is very good at what he does." Marcus looked at me surprised. I pulled out my wallet, waterlogged but intact. Inside, alongside credit cards that collectively had limits in the millions, was $3,200 in cash. I always carried cash. Force of habit from my father, who said you never know when you need to solve a problem immediately. I held it out to Marcus. "For your help, and for the soup." Marcus stared at the money. I saw his hand twitch. The temptation, the need, probably 3 months of survival sitting right there. Then he shook his head. "I didn't help for money," he said quietly. "I helped because you needed help." "I know," I said, "but your son needs shoes, and you need to get out of this shed. Please, take it." Marcus's jaw tightened. "I appreciate it, but I don't take charity." "It's not charity," I said, and I meant it. "It's payment for something valuable. You showed me—" I stopped, my voice catching. "You showed me what I'd forgotten. That's worth more than $3,200. Marcus looked at his son, at the 2 small clothes, the bare feet, the toy made from trash. I saw the war happening inside him. Pride versus love. Dignity versus necessity. "If you won't take it for yourself," I said, "take it for Isaiah." That broke him. He reached out, took the money with shaking hands. "Thank you," he whispered. Isaiah hugged his father. "Papa, now we can get a real place." Marcus held his son, his face buried in the boy's hair, and I heard him crying. Quiet, restrained, years of pressure releasing. We stayed in that shed until dawn, when the rain finally stopped. James managed to walk to the nearest town and arrange a tow truck. While we waited, I talked to Marcus. Really talked. He told me about his life, growing up in Atlanta, always good with his hands, working his way up to master mechanic at a luxury car dealership. Getting laid off when the economy crashed, his wife dying of cancer because they couldn't afford treatment. Moving here because rent was cheap, taking whatever work he could find, determined to give Isaiah a better life despite everything stacked against them. "I tell him every night," Marcus said, "that where we are now doesn't define where we're going. That dignity isn't about what you have, it's about who you are." I thought about my father's words, about the empire I'd built on the principle that some people were simply better than others. "You're a better man than me," I said. "I doubt that," Marcus replied. "No," I said, "you are. You've had every reason to become bitter, angry, to treat people the way the world's treated you. But you helped a stranger in the rain. You raised a son who shares instead of hoards. You maintained your dignity when mine was handed to me on a silver platter, and I still threw it away." Marcus didn't respond. But I saw something in his eyes. A reassessment, maybe. Recognition that this conversation was real. The tow truck came. As we prepared to leave, I knelt down in front of Isaiah. "You keep being good to your papa," I said, "and keep dreaming about that car." "I will, mister," Isaiah said. Then he hugged me, sudden, unexpected, his small arms around my neck. I hugged him back and I started crying. Right there, in my ruined suit, in front of my driver and a man I'd looked down on hours before, I cried like I hadn't cried since I was a child myself, because I realized what my father's philosophy had cost me. Not money, I had plenty of that. It cost me humanity, connection, the ability to see worth in people who weren't like me, to love without calculation, to be loved without transaction. Isaiah had given me that back. A 5-year-old child with bare feet and a heart big enough to share what little he had. When we finally pulled away in the tow truck, I looked back. Marcus and Isaiah were standing outside the shed, waving. My jacket was still draped over Isaiah's shoulders. I didn't go back to New York immediately. I had James drive me to a hotel in Hartsville. I showered, changed into clothes bought at a local store, then got to work. First call, my head of legal. "I need you to set up a trust. $5 million. Beneficiary, Isaiah Carter. Conditions: full college education including graduate school if desired, housing stipend, medical coverage, no strings attached." Second call, my head of HR. "I'm creating a new position, Director of Vehicle Operations. I need you to make an offer to Marcus Carter. Salary, $180,000. Full benefits, housing allowance, start date immediate. And I want a full audit of our hiring practices across all divisions. I want to see demographic breakdowns, and I want them changed." Third call, my sister. "Rachel, it's Richard. I'm calling to apologize. For everything. You were right. I was wrong. I'd like to meet your boyfriend properly, and I'd like to start being your brother again." She was silent for so long I thought she'd hung up. "Who are you, and what did you do with my brother?" she finally said, her voice thick with emotion. "Your brother died in a rainstorm," I said. "I'm what's left." "Someone better, I hope?" Marcus didn't believe it at first when I called. "Mr. Thornhill, I appreciate the offer, but I'm not looking for charity." "It's not charity," I interrupted. "I spent last night watching you diagnose a complex mechanical failure with a rock in a bottle. You have 8 years' experience with luxury vehicles. I have a fleet of 340 company cars across 6 states that need maintenance. You're qualified, you're talented, and I need someone who actually knows what they're doing. This is business." Silence. Then, "Why are you really doing this?" "Because you and your son reminded me that worth isn't about where you start. It's about who you are. And because I've built an empire on the wrong foundation, and I'm trying to rebuild it on the right one. Will you help me?" Another long pause. My son comes first. "If this job means less time with him, the job comes with flexible hours and a housing allowance specifically so you can spend more time with him," I said. "And there's a trust fund for his education and future. This isn't about separating you from Isaiah. It's about giving you both the life you deserve." I heard him crying on the other end. "When do I start?" he whispered. Marcus accepted. He moved to New York 3 weeks later. Him and Isaiah in a 3-bedroom apartment in Brooklyn that I bought outright and transferred to Marcus's name. No rent, no strings, just a home. His first day, I introduced him to the executive team. I watched their faces as they registered his race, probably made assumptions about why he was there. "This is Marcus Carter, our new director of vehicle operations," I said. "He's forgotten more about mechanical systems than most of us will ever know. He'll be overseeing all company vehicle maintenance, and he reports directly to me. Any questions?" No one dared ask, but I saw the looks. I addressed them. "I'm also announcing a company-wide initiative. We're implementing blind resume reviews for all positions. We're establishing partnerships with HBCUs and community colleges. We're creating mentorship programs for employees from underrepresented backgrounds. And anyone who has a problem with these changes can submit their resignation today." Marcus stood next to me, his back straight, his eyes forward. Professional, dignified. Later, in my office, he said, "You didn't have to do that." "Yes, I did," I said. "I spent my whole life protecting a system that elevated people like me and excluded people like you. I can't undo 43 years of damage in a day, but I can start. And I can make damn sure that Isaiah grows up in a world that judges him by his character, not his melanin." Marcus extended his hand. "Thank you." I shook it. "Thank you for not giving up on me in that shed. You could have. You should have. But you showed me grace I didn't deserve." 6 months later. I'm standing in the lobby of Thornhill Tower, watching Marcus and Isaiah arrive for Take Your Child to Work Day. Isaiah is wearing a small suit that Marcus bought him, his feet in brand new shoes, his eyes wide as he looks around at the marble and glass. "Papa, this is where you work?" Isaiah asks, amazed. "This is where we work," Marcus says, ruffling his son's hair. Isaiah sees me and breaks into a run. "Mr. Thornhill." I catch him in a hug. "Hey, buddy." "Ready to see what your dad does?" "Yeah. He says he takes care of all the fancy cars." "He does. He's the best." Isaiah beams. Then he looks at me seriously. "Papa says you gave us a second chance, that you changed your heart." "Your papa gave me a second chance," I correct. "He and you both. I was lost, and you showed me the way home." Marcus joins us, puts his hand on my shoulder. In that gesture there's friendship, real, hard-earned, based on something deeper than money or position. "Thank you," he says. Simple. Complete. "No," I reply. "Thank you." The company has changed. The executive floor now looks like America actually looks. Diverse, vibrant, brilliant in all the ways I'd been blind to. Profits haven't dropped. In fact, they've increased 17% since we broadened our hiring practices, because it turns out talent isn't limited to the people I used to think deserved opportunity. I've reconnected with my sister. Met her boyfriend, now fiancé, and apologized properly. Attended their engagement party and meant it when I said I was happy for them. I've started a foundation focused on economic mobility, job training, housing assistance for families in crisis. Marcus helps run it. He tells me which communities need help, which programs actually work, which organizations are doing real good versus performative charity. I still run Thornhill Industries. Still attend board meetings and negotiate billion-dollar deals. But now, when I look around the table, I see people like Marcus, people who earned their seats not through legacy admissions and country club connections, but through talent, perseverance, and character forged in crucibles I'll never fully understand. And when I go home to my 89th floor penthouse, I don't feel the same satisfaction I used to. Because I know that satisfaction was built on a lie, that I'd earned it purely through merit, that the game was fair, that my father's philosophy was wisdom instead of poison. Now I feel something different: responsibility, gratitude, humility, and hope. Last month, Isaiah turned 6. Marcus invited me to the birthday party, a small gathering in their apartment, mostly kids from the building and neighborhood. I brought a gift, a toy car, but not a cheap one, a remote-controlled Rolls-Royce Phantom, detailed and perfect. Isaiah's eyes went wide. "It looks like your car, the one Papa fixed." "That he did," I said, "and someday, when you're old enough, maybe you'll drive a real one. But more importantly, maybe you'll be the kind of person who stops to help someone whose car is broken down in the rain, because that's what real excellence looks like." Isaiah hugged the toy car. "I'm going to be just like Papa." "Then you'll be a great man," I said. Marcus pulled me aside as the party continued. "I need to tell you something." "What?" "Isaiah has been asking questions. About that night. About why we lived in a shed. About why we needed help." My chest tightened. "What did you tell him?" "The truth. That sometimes life knocks you down. That sometimes you need help. But also," Marcus's voice caught, "that sometimes people change. That nobody's beyond redemption. That you can spend your whole life going the wrong direction and still turn around." "Do you really believe that?" I asked. Marcus looked at his son, playing with other children, laughing, safe, loved, with a future stretching bright ahead of him. "Yeah," he said. "I do, because I've seen it. I think about that night a lot. The rain, the mud, the shed, a 5-year-old boy with bare feet and a heart bigger than the world. My father built an empire on the principle that some people are simply better than others. I inherited that empire and that poison, and I nearly let it destroy my soul. But a man with nothing and his son with even less showed me something my billions never could. That human worth isn't measured in bank accounts or skin color or social position. It's measured in character, in compassion, in the willingness to help a stranger in the rain, even when that stranger has looked at you with contempt. I don't know if I'll ever fully undo the damage of 43 years lived wrong, but I'm trying. Every day, I'm trying. And when I doubt myself, when old prejudices try to creep back in, I think about Isaiah holding that homemade flashlight in the rain, helping his father help me, asking for nothing in return. That's the image I carry now. Not my father's cold philosophy, but a child's bare feet in the mud, and a father's love that taught him to share what little he had, because sharing is what makes us human. That's the empire I'm trying to build now, and for the first time in my life, I'm proud of what I'm creating, not because of what it's worth, but because of who it serves.